Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Now we're going to discuss two more words. One is called the ظاهر, one is called the nas. So we have here the ظاهر and we have the nas. Okay, so quick recap. We're doing istilal, we're deriving the words, we're doing istilal lafzi, and we're doing istilal, well, ghayr lafzi will come up in the later unit. We analyze the word individually, we analyze the word the sentence collectively. Individual, we're going to have the meaning and the usage. In the meaning we have واضح and غير واضح. It's either meaning is known or meaning is not known. If the meaning is known, we have a few words. We have the word خاص مطلق مقيد. We have عام غير مخصوص and we have عام مخصوص. And then when we have the غير واضح, we have what? We have خفي مشترك مشكل مجمل and متشابه. And we repeat it over and over again so the terms stick in your mind. Yes. And then we have استعمال, we have حقيقة, and we have مجاز. Okay. Now the next we're going to go through is now text analysis. How do we analyze the text collectively as a whole? So now we can look at it here, the purpose of the text. The first discussion we're having here is the purpose of the text. Why has this text been brought? Let's understand this. So to discuss this, we need to know two terms. And the other aspect will come later on, aspects of the text. That's later on, inshallah. When we're dealing with the purpose of the text, we have two words. We have the word ظاهر and we have the word nas. ظهر يظهر ظهورا, to be apparent, to be clear, to be upfront, to be in your, it's ظاهر, it's clear, yes, evident. And nas, they use the word nas to refer to purpose, the goal, the aim. Let me give an example here, okay? And let me explain to you here. So nas means what? The reason you brought the text. So when you have an ayah in front of you, you have a hadith in front of you, and even in day-to-day conversation, these rules are logical. You can even apply to people's conversation. And it is applied. You get a lot of examples in Usool Shashi regarding non-Quran, non-hadith. What they say here is nas is the reason behind the speakers bringing that sentence, bringing that word. Okay? And the ظاهر is something you understand from it, but it's not why that person brought the text. For example, look. If I said to you here, I saw you in my local masjid last night. Let's say there's so many masajid in Leicester, and you live in another area, and you came to my area, and you performed salah in my masjid. Yes? What would you say is a nas? Why has the speaker, you need to answer this question. Yes? Why has the speaker brought this text? What would you say is the nas of this sentence? G, I'm waiting for you. So yeah, it's very obvious. We say here, the nas is to inform the mukhatab that he saw him, or the mutakallim saw him. What's the ظاهر? What else do you know from this? What else do you know from this? Yeah, you can say, well, the ظاهر is that both were in the masjid. That's also a ظاهر. Both were in the masjid. Both were in the masjid last night. Now, if you go aside, we can say, what can we also imply from the text? What's also ظاهر? Or like, what's also ظاهر? Okay, what's another ظاهر? Who can say another ظاهر? I can say another ظاهر. That's one ظاهر. Another ظاهر thing is what? There's a masjid in his locality. No? There is a masjid in his locality. There's a masjid in his locality. Yes? Locality. You got it? So all of these things can be understood from the text. But the nas is, this is why I brought the text. But you can, when I said this text, you can get this, you can get this, you can get these meanings derived. Are you following? Now, it's coming up later on. So this is ظاهر. It's not mentioned. We can say this. We can call this here isharatun nas, or we can say dalalatun. It's probably isharatun nas. What does it mean? What else can we say? I can say, well, I can tell you if this sentence is true. It says that it's true. There are at least two Muslims. There are at least two Muslims in that locality. Why? Why would you say that? How do you derive that? Obviously, this is a person's speech, so you might. When the Quran, you can say for every single letter, every single harf, every single number. Why? Because when you have a masjid, what do you have to have in a masjid? What do you have in a masjid local normally? A jama'ah. How much do you have to have for jama'ah minimum? 2 people. So we have to say, well, along with the speaker, there must be one other person who's Muslim in that area. That's the only way they can have jama'ah salah. And possibly logically more. Do you understand? You get it? So you can do all of these so all of these kind of, so when you look at Quran, you have the nas and the zahir, and then these are all other things we do later on. But primarily, we say, well, this is something we understand as a reason of the text, and these secondary things are things we understand from the text, even though it's not the purpose. And this is something very hidden, and very succinct, and very detailed, and very hidden, and obscure. That's what we do later on, inshallah. So nas is the reason you bring the text, and the zahir is the meaning you understand from the text, even though it's not the primary objective of the text. And we'll go through a Quranic example tomorrow, inshallah. Okay? Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So continuing from yesterday, we were discussing the nas and the zahir. So if you look at this verse, we have here, قَالُوا إِنَّمَا الْبَيْءُ مِثْلُ الرِّبَا. That the disbelievers of Makkah, what did they say? Bay' innama means only, similar. So bay' is just like riba. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, basically when riba was made impermissible, what did they claim? They said, why is riba impermissible? Buying and selling is just like riba, meaning you're buying one thing and they're buying time, they're buying respite, they're buying a loan, they're buying. So that's a whole tafsir issue. We've done this already in Balagha. It's tashbih maqloob, that the mushabba bih have been inverted for ta'keed. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْءَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. If you analyze this verse, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْءَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. What's the nas? Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what's the purpose? Obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's actions is not mu'allal. They don't have an illah. But the context behind this verse, why has Allah brought this verse? أَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْءَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. We would say here, in this verse, there's a nas and there's a zahir. Yes, sometimes the nas and the zahir, you might not find another zahir apart from the nas. But the purpose of this verse is basically to reject this. That they are saying, al-bay'u mithlu riba, that bay is like riba. So Allah is saying, no, bay is not like riba. Bay and riba are different. One is halal and one is haram. One is permissible, one is impermissible. So we can say the nas of this verse, meaning the reason or the purpose or the primary objective of this verse, you can say is tafriqah. Tafriqatun bayna al-bay'i wal-riba. Bayna al-bay'i wal-riba. To show the difference between bay' and riba. That's why this verse has been brought. This is the primary goal and the primary context and siyaq of this verse. The next, what we also learn from this is bay' is halal. It's obvious zahir that al-bay'u halalun, wal-bay'u halalun, wal-riba haramun. Yes, that's obvious. We learned that as well. But that's not why the text has been brought. And here it doesn't make a difference really, because there's no contradiction or there's no issue. So the nas is, Allah has brought this verse to explain the difference and to negate, to refute their statement that bay' is just like riba. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْءَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, it's different. So the nas of this verse is to reject and to refute this, and the zahir is this. Does everybody follow? Yes? Okay. Now let's look at this here now. I want to give you another example. So let's say on the website, I have not copies of the website, but let's say for example, we have this one here. We have classroom rules and we have exam rules. We have, for example, 2 different pages on the website. We say students may use a laptop or tablet in class to access information related to class. For example, we have in our class what we use. We have the Mawrid and we have the Ijjal and we have Al-Furqan, all those websites that we use during the class to access information. So we say here, a student may use a laptop or tablet in the class information. The next place it says here, exam rules. Students may not use laptops or tablets. Okay? If you were to start using a laptop or a tablet in the exams, would that be permissible? Would that be legal? and allowed in the exam? Tell me yes or no. Imagine you were a staff member and it was your job to apply the rules. And you got the top in one document, in one page, we have this piece of information. In another page, you have this piece of information. Would you allow tablets or laptops in the class in exams or not? Yes or no? Why would you not allow it? If a student says, no, I read on this website, on this page, on this document, that we may use a tablet or laptop in class, and we are still in the classroom. So therefore, this document 1 allows us to use a laptop. So therefore, I have not broken the emergency rules. How would you argue against that? Using nas and zahir. You're correct. Now I want you to explain using the words nas and zahir. Let me ask a question. What is the nas of this text? What is the nas of this text? Why has this website page been brought to show what? We see the top page, the top text. The purpose of this is to define classroom rules. Yes? Does that make sense? And the bottom nas, what's the nas of the bottom one? To define which rules? Exam conditions. Are you following? Make sense? The ظاهر of this allows, the ظاهر is allowing laptops in the class in all circumstances. Isn't it? That's a ظاهر, isn't it? Yes? So now what would we have? We have a contradiction between the ظاهر of this text and the nas of this text. They seem to contradict each other, don't they? The top text says, in all conditions, you may use, and once you're in the classroom, you can use it for class-related information. And the bottom says you cannot use it for exams. Which text will you give preference to? We say, well, we give nas. That this text is particularly explaining exam rules. This text is not explaining exam rules. This text is explaining classroom rules, normal day-to-day classes. It is nas. The purpose of this text is to define classroom rules. So therefore, the text that defines that issue, the text that has been brought, the rule that has been brought, the page that has been created to address that particular issue will be given preference over the other. Do you understand? So in simple words, that when you have one issue and one text you derive from the ظاهر and you derive from the nas. If the information derived from one text nas and one text ظاهر and they contradict each other, what will have preference? The text that has a nas, the text which has been brought for that. Look at this. You understand the masla, the rule? It makes logical sense, this rule? Everybody following? Okay. So look, we have here ليس على الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات جناح فيما طعموا إذا ما اتقوا. There is no sin. Junah means sin. So ليس على الذين, this is the khabar muqaddam, junah. There is no sin upon those who do good deeds and believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding what they consume, as long as they are fearful. So now, you don't know the nas of this verse. I'll give the nas shortly. Well, you already know this. And we have the ظاهر. The ظاهر of this text tells us what? Eat what you want. Very, very brief, but eat what you wish, as long as you have iman and taqwa. Yes? That's what we seem to understand from this verse, though, isn't it? That the ظاهر of this verse is telling us you can eat as long as you have على الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فيما طعموا, in what they consume, as long as they have taqwa. So as long as you have taqwa, there is no sin upon you, irrespective of whatever you consume. Isn't it the ظاهر? Yes? So from this verse we learn there's no halal, there's no haram, you just eat whatever you want. This is the ظاهر. However, if you look in the hadith, in the text, the Sahaba would explain to us the circumstance of revelation. Why was this verse brought? This verse was brought when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited certain things. Alcohol became impermissible, etc. So now the question was, what about those people who passed away before this prohibition was revealed? So let's say they were eating and drinking, they were drinking alcohol and they died. but that was not haram yet. It was permissible. So even though they were drinking alcohol, it was permissible. It wasn't anything wrong. It was halal for them. And then they died, and then the rule of alcohol came. So people had this kind of thought that so and so, Fulan and Fulan, they passed away. They were drinking alcohol until they died. So Allah revealed this verse to remove. So the nas is this what? The nas of this verse is to remove misconception regarding what? Those who passed away whilst consuming alcohol before its prohibition had been revealed. Do you understand? So this verse has a nas and a ظاهر. Every text will not have like you won't have it so obvious, but here it's very obvious. The ظاهر is telling us one thing and the nas is telling us one thing. Now, if you were to take the ظاهر of this verse, you can eat anything you want, no halal, no haram. However, we have another verse. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أحل لغير الله به والمنخنقة والموقوذة والمتردية والنطيحة وما أكل السبع إلا ما ذكيتم وما ذبح على النصب وأن تستقسموا بالأزلام. So until here, look. Allah has given a list of things that are haram. Now, what? The nas and the ظاهر is not too different in here. The nas. Why has this verse been brought? What was the purpose and the reason behind this verse? Who can tell me? This verse is revealed clearly. Hurrimat, like the text tells us that the purpose of this verse is to explain or clarify, or to list the haram items. Now, yes. So if you look at it here, we can say the ظاهر of the top verse allows all food is halal. That's the ظاهر. All food is halal, as long as you have iman and taqwa. The ظاهر tells us of this verse, all food is halal. And the nas of this verse says what? Some foods are haram. We have a tanaquz, a contradiction, as we've done in mantiq, contradiction between two of them. So we have the ظاهر is telling us one thing, and the nas is telling us another. So which verse would be given preference in terms of determining the rulings of haram food? The top or the bottom? The bottom. Why the bottom? Because this verse has been brought to explain to us haram foods. And the top verse has not been brought to explain haram foods, it's being brought for another purpose. But the ظاهر tells us one thing. So when the ظاهر of this verse and the nas of this verse seems to contradict, or they're contradictory. Not the two verses are contradictory. The nas of one and the ظاهر of one is contradictory. So we'll take the nas, regarding the muharramat, regarding those foods which are impermissible to consume, we will take this verse, because this verse is nas in this context. Does that make any sense? Is everyone following? Any questions regarding this? So if we recap now, what do we have? We're doing istidlal lafzi, and in istidlal lafzi then istidlal from the individual, one word, clarity, we had wadih, ghayr wadih, we have istimal, haqiqa and majaz. And in text analysis, we look at the whole text. The first is we look at the purpose of the text, and the aspects of the text. In terms of purpose of the text, we can have ظاهر, a meaning that we understand from the text, simple. And in nas, a meaning we understand from the text, but that meaning and that idea, that concept, that ruling that we derive and understand is actually the reason of the text. So the nas is going to be stronger than the ظاهر. So therefore, if you ever have a contradiction between the nas of one text and the ظاهر of another text, preference will be given to the what? The ظاهر, the nas over the ظاهر. And we do more examples in Usool Shashi, but for now you got the basic idea regarding ظاهر and nas. Understood? Any questions regarding this? Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.